Hey there, friends! Welcome to your extra credit discussion on the Elder Scroll. And I really did build this 6 years ago. Well, I made the master 6 years ago. And back then, I wasn't doing a video for every single build like I do now. I did one 30-second build or video, because I was leaving for Dragon Con. I was delivering the scroll at Dragon Con. I had just finished it, and I filmed a 30-second thing where I went and zipped it up the mechanism there. It's on YouTube too. It's literally me going, check it out, I made an Elder Scroll. All right, now I'm going to Dragon Con. So that's it. I didn't film any of that. I hardly took any photos when I built it, because I always figured, well, I have the mold, and then when I get back from Dragon Con, I'll just make another one. Let's make another one for myself. No big deal. And at some point, I did cast copies. I made 2 copies out of my molds. I don't remember when I did that. All I know is I had 2 of them sitting on a shelf over there. And when we were looking for a good project that we could do for an upcoming video, and also we were going to do a sponsored video with Skillshare, which meant it would be a really great idea to go find something on Skillshare that we could use on a project. And also, Harrison over at Vulcan Props gold leafed his Elder Scroll. It all just made sense. We will gold leaf our Elder Scroll, and that'll be a really great tie-in for the sponsor, and also a really fantastic project. And also, I'll finally get one for myself, and I do. And I'm very excited about that. The gold leaf was quite the education. We did all the research, bought all the supplies, did a lot of practice. Since I had 2 copies of each of these, I actually we ended up using one of these end parts as a test piece to do a lot of the gold leafing on, and then trying out some of the finishing techniques to do on top of it. And that one's hiding back there. So I have another one of these 1/3 finished over there. The gold leafing was interesting. The look you get from it is really hard to beat. It's actual metal, an actual thin metal finish on there. But it can be tricky, really, really tricky to get a good, consistent layer. And I did okay for my first attempt. If you look closely, you can see gaps and little bits and pieces sticking out. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I will say, for my first gold leaf project, this is kind of complicated. Probably could have started with something a little bit less complex. But that's not really how I roll now, is it? I tend to jump in with both feet. So yeah, it took quite a while. Britt did a bunch of the gold leaf. She did one of these. I was actually in San Francisco filming with Tested and at Maker Faire for a weekend. So Britt helped get a bunch of the gold leaf done while I was out of town. Yeah, and then we had to figure out how to seal it. It's a pretty delicate finish. So we did some tests on that other one using varnish, and that worked out pretty well. But the weathering was tricky. So I used my oil paints, and I love them, and I love the look. And I did a small test on my test piece back there. And it looked great, but then later, this part over here is a little less favorite, because I covered the whole area in oil paint, and then I went to wipe it off, and it seemed to have already started to dry, and it didn't wipe off very well at all. And then I covered it in water, because it's a water mixable oil paint, and I tried to scrub most of it off. But I think what happened was I also pulled the varnish off, and then putting another layer on top of it with those oil weathering paints didn't really work as well as I'd hoped. So that part over there is not favorite. I like this side a little bit better. Part of that's probably because I didn't give the varnish a ton of time to dry. We are flying to Scotland tomorrow. We're going on a little bit of a vacation, so we had to get this thing wrapped up. So we were even less patient than we usually are to get it wrapped up. So I'm thinking the varnish probably wasn't dry all the way when I tried to do my weathering. That probably played a bit of a role in that sort of weird stickiness. So at some point I may try and refinish this part over here. I say that now, but it'll probably be another 6 years, right? Before I give it another try. The mechanism seems to work. It's a little finicky. but it does go down in there like that. Of course, it performs perfectly this time. I'm super happy with that. A couple other things that surprised me. These gems, all these purple gems here, somehow, 6 years ago, I bought way more than I needed, and I did not lose them. These are all the original gems that I purchased to make the first one, and I think at the time, I assumed I would want to make one for myself, so I just bought a bunch more. It's not like they're expensive. These are really cheap gems from like Joann's or Michael's. But I was very pleased when I started digging through my box of gems over there, and I found more than enough purple gems of the right size and right shape to fit in this kit. So that was a happy little accident right there, or at least one of the rare times when past build didn't totally screw over future build. So way to go, old buddy. One of the things that we were concerned about with this kit is that the details I put in here are very shallow. At the time, I had my vinyl cutter. I didn't have a laser cutter. So to get these details, I cut them out on a flat piece of vinyl sticker, and then I wrapped it around, and it gave it a little bit of a raised detail. And it looks great. It catches a little bit of the weathering paint. Got some nice contrast there. But we were worried that the foil from the gold leaf would fill in those details. But that stuff is crazy thin. Like, staggeringly thin. And it shows the details great, even though they're really shallow. So super happy with how that turned out. That was awesome. We ended up using one package of the foil. It had 25 sheets in it. So, and that covered all of this plus another one of these. So it was more than enough. It was like $10 in foil. The adhesive was like $5 or something. So for a finish that looks this cool and shiny, it actually wasn't all that expensive. It just took a lot of time. It was very time consuming to get all the foil on there. That's the part that took the most on this build easily. But again, worth it. It looks so shiny. This one is definitely going up on the wall. We've got our prop wall in the office. Definitely going up there prominently. And I think that's a really good place to present it. Up on the wall, probably put a couple other Skyrim weapons next to it, just so it doesn't feel lonely. That's going to do it for this build discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. The foil leafing or gold leafing is really cool. There's a ton of stuff you can do with it. I bought the gold colored foil. It's not real gold, I don't think, but it's gold colored. They also had copper and silver, so you could totally apply this technique with different colored metals. And as far as I know, it works the same as this stuff does. So that's something I'm going to keep in my back pocket for a future build. If there's something I want to get this cool metallic finish on, but it needs to be more silvery or it needs to be more coppery, we've got some options out there. So I'm excited to potentially play with it again in the future. That's going to do it for this build discussion. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for following along. Thank you, as always, for the support, of course. You guys are fantastic. And I really do hope you enjoy these little deep dives into our projects once they're all finished up. There's always fun behind-the-scenes things that happen on these, and I'm glad I get to share them with you. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next one.